In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws.
Remember the night the Indiana Fever looked utterly unbeatable? They bulldozed Paige Bueckers in the wings, ripped Minnesota apart for the first Commissioner's Cup in franchise history, then handed A'ja Wilson's Las Vegas Aces a loss so lopsided, the strip went silent. 3 straight statement wins. The bandwagon had standing room only, the hot take machine was purring, and every sportsbook in America had the Fever circled in neon. But sports have a twisted sense of humor, don't they? Because just 72 hours later, that same wagon slammed into a brick wall wearing a Los Angeles Sparks jersey. Without Caitlin Clark, and without Damiris Dantas, and if we're being honest, without a fair whistle in sight. This is the story of how the league's feel-good freight train got derailed by injuries, departures, and, yes, some head-spinning officiating that forced head coach Stephanie White to send a 5-word thunderbolt across the league. Buckle up.
We should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have everything.
Let's rewind to shoot-around. Clark wakes up with that stubborn groin still barking. The medical staff shakes its collective head. 5th straight DNP, big picture over box score, they say, and White agrees. And Dantas? On international duty in the FIBA AmeriCup. That's 2 pillars yanked from the foundation before tip-off.
Finding out this morning that we probably need to hold out again today. It really is a day-to-day thing. And I think for us, making sure that we're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness. It's anybody who's had some of these types of injuries understand that sometimes it's a process. She's a quick healer and she's been doing everything that she can to get back on the floor. So, we just want to make sure that we're hypersensitive to the big picture.
Yet the Fever stroll into Gainbridge Fieldhouse as 6.5-point favorites. ESPN's computer spits out a 72.9% win probability. Why wouldn't it? Aaliyah Boston is playing grown woman basketball. Kelsey Mitchell has found another scoring gear, and Natasha Howard's veteran toolbox is overflowing. On paper, the Sparks are a rebuilding 5-win afterthought. On hardwood, though, the game rarely stays on paper. First quarter, the pace is syrup. Without Clark's red laser passes, Indiana's offense feels like a jazz trio missing its piano. Boston steals, flashes her hand, spins, no entry pass. Mitchell snakes off a screen, no pocket delivery. Possession stretch, shot clocks drip. White's sideline clipboard might as well be a blank page. Still, talent keeps him afloat. Boston muscles in an early and 1. Mitchell cans a 26-footer that quiets the crowd. Howard slips baseline and dunks a lefty layup over De'Arica Hamby. Scoreboard says Fever by 4 after 1. Crisis averted? Not even close. Mid-second quarter, the whistle roulette begins. Sophie Cunningham takes a clothesline around the neck, ball swallowed in her arms, legs swept, jump ball, say the refs. The replay looks like WWE Raw.
This is what I was talking about with Sophie Cunningham. Look at this. She literally grabbed her around her neck, and they called this a jump ball, and then threw her down the next play.
A few trips later, Boston verticals straight up, whistle tweets, personal foul number 2. She turns to the official, palms opened in disbelief, jaw clenched so tight you can hear it creak. 30 seconds later, she barely bumps for position, foul number 3, bench time. The Sparks promptly hammer the paint like it owes them rent. White's assistant coaches are trading "are you kidding me" glances. Sideline reporters note the expletives mouthed beneath towels. Twitter does what Twitter does. Hashtag fix the whistle trends before halftime.
I don't get it. Breanna Stewart, A'ja Wilson, wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls. Touch fouls, anything. And guess what happens? Aaliyah Boston, the best center in the game, and guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? Phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark. But anybody else, the physicality disappears. And it's foul after foul.
With Boston parked on the bench in foul trouble, the Fever needed a spark, and they got 3. Kelsey Mitchell ignited first, curling off a dribble handoff and launching a rainbow 3 that detonated like a firecracker over Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Natasha Howard followed suit, Euro stepping through 2 bodies, kissing the glass, and snarling on the back pedal. Then Boston re-entered, 4 fouls be damned, and bulldozed Hamby on a drop step that rattled the stanchion. Possession after possession, the trio traded blows with LA, piling up points almost in defiance of the whistle. Between them, they tally 63 points on 25 of 40 shooting. That's championship caliber output on a night made of duct tape and bubble wrap. Indiana closes the third on a 10-2 burst, down just 1. Momentum shifting? Hold that thought. By the time the third quarter horn sounded, Indiana trailed by a single bucket, and every ounce of momentum felt crimson, navy, and gold. Stat line you didn't want to read. Los Angeles scores 10 straight buckets in the paint, adds 9 free throws for flavor. Indiana's point of attack defense phrase, sure, but every whistle lands like a punchline nobody finds funny.
And then Aaliyah Boston, like I said, she didn't touch her. They put her in foul trouble all season long. They're just calling stuff to call stuff. The refs made this game about them. Aaliyah Boston, again, she's an all-star player.
McDonald stands hands skyward, whistle, foul. Timpson boxes out, whistle, foul. Lexi Hull gets straight up stomped by Kelsey Plum, who actually steps over her Allen Iverson style play on. Even Sparks fans are flinching at the scoreboard operator's arm workout.
And this is fourth quarter. Look at this. This one pissed me off. Kelsey Plum seriously elbows Lexi Hull, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up. Lexi Hull can't believe it. That's a foul. The ref was right there in front of her. And then here we go. And they kept McDonald in foul trouble the entire game. There's 2 in a row where she didn't do anything. Look at that. Just had her arms in the air, but this is the fourth quarter, and they just kept giving every single call. I like Leah Boston finally getting pissed off. Then they call this away from the ball in the fourth quarter. Nothing going on. Just to put him at the line. And then Kelsey Plum, another one. But when Howard drives and gets slashed across the face, no foul, just out of bounds.
White burns her last time out with 2:14 left. Diagramming a lob for Boston. She catches, powers up, slaps both forearms on the way. No call. Fast break the other direction, whistle, 2 shots Sparks. The building tilts. Press conference, fluorescent lighting, recorders blinking. White sits, exhales through her nose like a bull, scans the room. First question lands. Coach, what happened in the paint that fourth quarter? She could launch into schemes, rotations, personnel scouting. Instead, she detonates 5 measured syllables.
In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws.
Mic drop without the drop. Some coaches rant, white needles with a scalpel. Those words bounce through social feeds, highlight loops, morning talk shows, officials' names surface, 2-minute report truthers sharpen their pitchforks, league office phone lines light up like Christmas. Strip away the chaos and you see a different box score entirely. Boston logged 23 points and 12 rebounds while navigating foul landmines. Mitchell poured in 19, cementing her status as the franchise's Iron Woman with game number 251. Howard was nearly perfect, scattering 21 points on just 11 shots, plus 9 boards for good measure. On any ordinary night, those numbers headline a comfortable win. On this night, they became evidence that Indiana's core can drag the team to the brink even when the deck is stacked against them.
Look at these hits. Good thing Caitlin Clark didn't play because it was just a sloppy basketball game between the officials and the Los Angeles Sparks. Look at this. They called this a foul instead of a block. And then there's Aaliyah Boston again. That's 3 fouls where she didn't touch anybody. And that's our best player and wonder why we lose this game. Michaela Timpson, watch these 2 calls in a row. She didn't do anything. She got hit on that one, and they called a foul on her.
That is not the stat profile of a bottom-tier roster. That is a budding contender missing its jet fuel engine. Clark returns. The ceiling cracks open. Every contender absorbs a signature gut punch. The Fever just got theirs. They learned their half-court offense is mortal without Clark's warp speed decisions. They discovered Boston can carry a playoff-level load, but needs whistle equity to stay on the floor. They witnessed Mitchell morph into the spiritual leader nobody outside Indiana credits her for. They watched Howard mentor by sheer will, dragging younger teammates to the proper spots, then cashing the bailout bucket herself.
Most important, they forged an us-against-the-world edge that no coach can fabricate. You can't stage losing to a 5-win team because zebras swallowed whistles. You can only feel it scorch your gut, then bottle that fire for June, July, and a revenge tour September.
Revenge is already penciled onto the Fever schedule. The Golden State Valkyries arrive Wednesday, and if Clark's groin cooperates, she'll turbocharge the opening tip. A weekend swing through Dallas and Connecticut looms right after, 2 clubs that dined on Indiana's injury woes earlier in the month. And when New York parachutes into Indy during the final week of July, Breanna Stewart will discover just how long a contender's memory can be. Every date circled on that calendar is a chance for the Fever to turn stored-up frustration into statement wins, and they plan to cash those receipts one by one. Every team that clipped Indiana, while Clark watched in street clothes, should triple knot its sneakers. The Fever keep receipts like accountants. Great teams assemble talent. Championship teams synthesize trauma. Chicago learned it in 2021, Las Vegas in 2022, New York still chasing the formula. Indiana? They're in the pressure cooker right now. Roles shifting nightly, youngsters cramming PhD-level lessons, vets teaching crash courses in composure, and an entire fan base rallying behind a common villain: inconsistent officiating. White's 5 words didn't just vent frustration. They planted a flag. They told her locker room, "I've got your back." They told the league, "We see what you're doing." They told the fans, "Keep the faith, we'll swing harder next time." Imagine that first home game where Clark checks in, Boston claps twice, Mitchell dribbles up, Howard flashes a grin, the lineup whole again, the narrative flipped. Bankers Life Fieldhouse will quake.
I mean, look, there are going to be days where you make shots and miss shots. I mean, that's part of it. I thought, AB had a really good look at the end. And so sometimes it just doesn't fall your way. So we're looking more about execution. I didn't feel like our execution was all that good at the end. I felt like in our reset timeout, it wasn't very good either. And, that's on us, continuing to make sure that we are going over that, as often as possible when we have our practice time, and making sure that we're sharp in those areas.
When Caitlin Clark finally sheds the warm-ups, Indiana's whole world shifts into fast forward. The pace jolts from a half-court slog to a full-court sprint, with early clock threes flying before defenses can even find their matchups. Because every defender in the building has to pick Clark up 30 feet from the rim, Aaliyah Boston suddenly lives in single coverage heaven. Wide base seals, soft-handed lobs, point-blank finishes. That gravity ripple pushes Kelsey Mitchell back into her natural role as catch-and-shoot assassin. She's no longer forced to run every set, so the load on her shoulders drops by the possession. Crunch time, the stretch that's haunted Indiana all month, turns into a highlight reel straight out of Clark's college mixtape. Audacious pull-ups, whip-smart pocket passes, and bold late-clock decisions that calm the entire roster. Fold in Damiris Dantas' size returning from international duty, and you're staring at a lineup with the pace, spacing, and closing power to crash the top 4 conversation long before the calendar flips to August. Fans, you're not passive spectators. Make noise, tag clips, demand accountability. The league wants transparency? Flood them with time-stamped receipts. Officiating elevates or undermines a product. Your voice moves that needle. Drop your takes below. Was White right to call out the refs? Did Boston get hosed? Should Clark have suited up anyway? We read every comment, every emoji, every suspiciously all-caps dissertation. And if you haven't already, hammer that subscribe button, smack the notification bell, share this with a friend who still thinks officiating doesn't swing games, because the Fever's revenge tour is coming, and you'll want a front row seat when the receipts get cashed.